Welcome to Brother, the Masonic podcast with Neil Thomas Allen and Taz Bhachoo.
Hello and welcome to this special Brother Extra. We are in the midst of football fever as we're in the middle of the Euros over in Europe. Yesterday, England eliminated and beat Germany 2-0 in a wonderful competition, which saw Raheem Sterling and Harry Kane score. My name's Neil Thomas Allen, and I'm joined, as always, by my lovely textbook encyclopedia of football, Taz Bhachoo. Taz, how are you, my friend?
I really feel like you built me up to share some football insights. Probably to no surprise to those of you that know me, but a surprise to perhaps most of our listeners. Whilst the England game was on last night, I was rewatching Desperate Housewives. I knew that they scored. I knew that they scored twice by the cheers that I could hear from outside and the occasional motorist beeping their horn. Presumably, the two people that you mentioned scored the goals. As you can see, I'm not here in a vintage football shirt, for those of you watching on YouTube. And I'm looking forward to learning more about football, knowing absolutely nothing about the sport. And I'm very well, Neil. That was a long way to say I'm fine and dandy, wasn't it? How are you?
It was indeed, yes. I'm very well, thank you. I've decided to grow some fuzz on my face, which if you're watching on YouTube, you can now see my poor attempt at a beard.
It's the best attempt you've had so far.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how far it goes. We're also joined by a fellow football fan, our master of video, Jack Saunders. Jack, how are you, my friend?
Yeah, I'm doing good as well. I've proudly wearing my Crystal Palace shirt this evening, season ticket holder. I'm doing good. I've got a week off work, so I've been trying to enjoy it and make the most of it.
Beautiful stuff. Love that. And making sure that we sound excellent in the edits. He is our resident Norwich not supporter. It's Josh Whelan. Josh, how the devil are you, my friend?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well indeed. I'm going to be with Taz on this. I think him and I are both probably on the same website, which is giving us sort of football talking points, because I haven't got a clue. I really don't. I understand that there was a football match last night that everybody was quite excited about as well. But I know nothing about football, so this is going to be an interesting one.
Well, it's time to learn. It's time to learn, my friends.
Exactly.
So we are joined this evening by Sean, Mr. Sean G. Whelan, who those of you may or may not know gives an excellent talk on football and masonry. So, Sean, how the devil are you, my friend?
Good evening, everybody. Yeah, it's an absolute pleasure and an honour to be here with you this evening, and it's great. And those who don't like football, I hope whatever we're going to discuss in the next few minutes, they'll find it interesting. If you love your Freemasonry and you love football, then it's going to be great. If you don't like football but you love your Freemasonry, then hopefully that'll be great as well. But if you don't like either of them, then I suggest you might be on the wrong podcast. But but yeah, it's a pleasure to be here, and everybody's been singing it. It's coming home, and I after the end of this podcast and what we're about to discuss, I'm going to prove to you that it really will be coming home if England go on to win it. So
beautiful. So let's get kick-started by finding out a bit more about you. So tell us how you came into Freemasonry. And yeah, kind of tell us more a bit about that.
Okay, well, my father was a Freemason, and it was I was introduced into Freemasonry at ladies' nights and things like that. My father was my mother and father ran pubs, so we'd often have many friends of my father's from lodge would visit. So I was sort of brought up in and around Freemasonry for quite a few years. And I was initiated into my other lodge, which is Wilfred Attenborough Lodge, 7672 in Hampshire and Isle of Wight, in 1989. So I was 24 at the time, and after about 7 years, life took over a little bit. So children, family, big job, jobs, things like that, and work pressures. So I actually stepped out for a little while, and thankfully I came back about 11 years later and came back to Wilfred Attenborough and went through the chair. So I've been in Freemasonry for quite a few years, but I stepped out, came back again, which, I don't regret one bit, because at the time it was the right thing to do. So, which is why I always encourage brethren who need to step out for a bit. There's nothing wrong with that. If and we should encourage them to support them through it, and hopefully they'll come back when it suits them, and when it's a bit better for them. So, and I'm one of those people that walk around and it's living proof that that's the right thing to do. So I came back after 11 years, I went through the chair for the first time. And then, and so it began. Since then, I was founding senior warden of the Football Lodge 9921, and I've been through the chair quite a few times now. I'm involved in events, so we've arranged family fun days, things like that. And so that's my sort of Masonic career. Work-wise, I've been in corporate sales for many years, and in the corporate sales market, and I've ran my own business for the last 17 years. Which we actually just sold in December. So that's work. Marriage. I'm married. I've got a dog called Dixie. I'm a massive Everton fan. I'm a season ticket holder at Everton, although I live in Hampshire. And we go to the home games when we're allowed to. And so yeah, that's about it really. Have I missed anything? I don't know.
It's a perfect in a nutshell, Sean Whelan. Appreciated.
It was textbook. So obviously one of the reasons that we've got you on the podcast at the moment is Euro 2020. I find it weird saying 2020 and 2021, but hey ho, Euro 2020 is happening right now, and I guess your kind of claim to fame, and one of the things that people know you about within the kind of the Masonic fraternity is that you deliver a football and Freemasonry talk. So I'm quite interested, having heard about how much of a fan you are of football, where the idea for the talk came from, and how you kind of started researching it.
So it all came about when David Lalana and myself were chatting at the Novotel it was a Masonic meeting, and we were working actually. So and we did the usual thing as Freemasons do. We spent about 3 minutes talking Freemasonry and about 3 hours talking football. And at the end of that conversation, I said to David, perhaps we should start a football lodge, because themed lodges were certainly being discussed. There was a number of themed lodges that were taking place in Hampshire. So for instance, there was a scouting lodge, Pax Hill. There was a boating lodge, a motorcyclist lodge, checkered flag lodge, all sorts of themed lodges which were breaking out. And so I mentioned to him that perhaps we should start a football lodge, and he said, you know what, that's not a bad idea. So we agreed to take 2 weeks to look at ask a few people, see how feasible it was. And I also agreed at that time to see if there were any links between football and Freemasonry, which went on to generate this, to be the content of this talk. So and I was absolutely blown away by the links of Freemasonry and football. It was just incredible, and I'm so grateful to the UGLE, because I went to the museum and the library, and we went through the sportsman's links, and out of that I took just the football, and just the football was spine-tingling. It was incredible. So that's how the talk came about, and of course, the rest is history. We went on to form Football Lodge. David Lalana was the Primus Master. I was the senior warden, and off we went. And the talk, when I came out of the chair after obviously after David, my talk was being put together, and then a couple of years ago I launched it, and that's how it went. And I've got to be honest with you, the content that I had at the very beginning of Football and Freemasonry, the perfect match, the content changes on a monthly basis. So the more I actually do the talks, most of it's been online recently, but there's always something that comes up that's added. And I'm really grateful to UGLE, because obviously everything that I talk about, I know has been verified by them. So I'm a great believer in actually talking, telling it if it's fact rather than, hearsay, because I think that can be, you can lose your way if you do things like that. So everything I talk about has been verified and confirmed by UGLE, and it's fantastic.
And just very quickly, for those listening to the podcast, why might they know David Lallana?
David's son is a professional footballer, played for Liverpool for many years, Southampton, Liverpool, and he's now at Brighton. So he's a professional footballer and still in the game. And he's a footballer at Brighton Hove Albion. Yeah.
One Adam Lallana.
Indeed, yes, yeah.
Like all of your experiences of setting up the lodge was documented in a great way on Inside the Freemasons documentary, wasn't it? I think that gave us a really good insight into it, and the consecration of it was a fantastic day.
It is actually incredible. I mean, we were talking last night after the football, and then even the pundits were saying to win a competition, you need a bit of luck. And it's exactly the same with a project like forming a lodge. And we did have a little bit of luck. And what happened was there was the film was being made, the documentary was being made. And it just so happened that the consecration of our lodge was being discussed. And we actually ended up getting the permission from Grand Lodge, and off it went, and around that time we were introduced to the producers, Emporium, who came to see us and said, can we follow you for a bit and see how we get on? And we just all clicked. We got on really well. We got permission from the people that we needed to get permission from, so they could come inside. And I've got to be honest with you, what you saw on the program and the banter in the lodge, the atmosphere in our lodge is something that I've never seen in any other Masonic meeting anywhere. It's and we're very fortunate. We combine football and Freemasonry. We do the serious bits seriously, but you know what? We have fun. We have fun, and it's just a joy. Football lodge is a joy, and I think that came over on the program, which we were very grateful. We were very grateful to have that opportunity.
Yeah, I'd probably echo that. I think it was probably one of my favourite parts actually about the coverage on the show, was that forming a new lodge, its first meeting, and being so intrinsically linked with football, because you've got active Premier League football players, parents and whatnot actively involved with the lodge. So yeah, that was definitely one of my favourite elements of the show. Josh, I believe it's over to you.
Yeah, it's interesting, Sean, you mentioning about the kind of links between Freemasonry and football. I mean, I was walking down Great Queen Street the other day heading to the big house, and when you take a look on the left-hand side, I think it's the Grand Connaught rooms, and you can see there's a plaque on the wall there which says that the FA was set up in those rooms. They were having a meeting in that room, and that was where the Football Association was founded. And there's a fascinating article which the Grand Lodge of Northumberland submitted on the Freemasonry Today website, which is about the last time that Newcastle actually won a trophy 51 years ago. Apparently half the team and the manager were all Freemasons, and someone in the Provincial Grand Lodge of Northumberland has done a whole load of digging and research around this team. So there must have been so much that you've researched. And in terms of the talk itself, so how many times have you given the talk now? How many kind of different places have you done, and what do you think has been the best experience of giving the talk so far?
Well, I started obviously the actual talk was when we were allowed to do it. I was traveling around with it, which was great. So one of the first ones I did was in Berkshire. Actually, I was invited up to Berkshire, and it was the Berkshire Masters Lodge, and it was at Sindlesham, which is a lovely centre. And the equipment was very good, and everything was set up. Anyway, we got to the meeting, and somebody said, oh, there's a few official visits today. Anyway, the PGM, the deputy PGM, a couple of the APGMs, and there was dignitaries everywhere. And I thought, oh no. And this was and oddly enough, one of them came up to me and he said, I don't like football. He said, but I'm going to keep an open mind. So I said, okay, that's fine. And he came up to me afterwards and he said, I still don't like football, but I've found your talk incredibly interesting. And it is actually incredibly interesting, because that plaque you talk about on the wall outside, on Great Queen Street, that is where the rules of the game were written. Every Wednesday evening, they Ebenezer Cobb Morley met with 3 others and sat and wrote the rules to the modern game. Up to then, it was a colleges game. So you had many colleges, many private schools playing the game, and it was getting messy. It was getting a bit of a clique. So they wrote the rules of the game, the modern rules, and they formed the Football Association there and then, and they invited teams in. Out of those 12 teams, 8 of them had Masonic chairmen and links. So people like William Isaiah Bassett from West Bromwich Albion. There was people like John Holding from Liverpool, who was a founder member of Anfield Lodge, but he was also, although he was founder member of he was founder of Liverpool, the actual founding of the FA, Everton, he owned Anfield, and it was Everton that were one of the founder members. So John Holding actually he was a member of Anfield Lodge, he was a member of Everton Lodge, he was a 33-degree Freemason, and when Everton decided to break away over an argument with John Holding about the rent, Everton went across the park to Goodison Park, and it was John Holding that formed Liverpool Football Club. So the history is entrenched, and so it goes on. Wolverhampton Wanderers, every team has a Masonic link. So yeah, it really is there. So they wrote the rules, and even after they wrote the rules and formed these 12 clubs, 8 of them with Masonic links, they continued, and they still continue to be pioneers of the game. So, for instance, it was a Masonic, it was a Freemason who invented flags for linesmen. It was a Freemason that invented red and yellow cards for referees. It was a Freemason that invented black uniforms for referees. And also, I have to say, the Hawkeye, or as we know it, the touchline technology and VAR, we know had, the people that were involved in that had Masonic links. So we continue to be pioneers in the game, and we also took the game to the world. So, and this is what I was saying earlier, when they say football's coming home, if it does happen, it really is coming home. That song has got so much truth to it, because we not only invented the modern game, we not only wrote the rules, but we also took it to the world. So for instance, we took it to South America, we took it to Argentina, we introduced the game to Argentina, and we introduced the game to Brazil. And they were all Freemasons that did that. So they were usually shipping merchants. One particular guy was the founder member of the Argentinian FA. He was an export merchant from Southampton. So Southampton Football Club has massive links with Brazil and Argentina. Everton went to Peru, and even today, Everton have got massive links with Peru. Liverpool went to Mexico, and it goes on. Stoke City went to Venezuela. So it's just incredible the amount of links that we have.
That's amazing. Like, beyond what we would think, you can really see how the connection between Freemasonry and football is really ingrained from the beginning, and throughout. As you say, you've mentioned some ways where Freemasons have sort of reinvented or evolved football as we know it today. Obviously, we're not going to get the full experience of your talk this evening. We're just getting sort of some of the highlights. But how can someone that's interested book you for their lodge or for one of their new and young Mason social clubs? How can we book you and get you recording, presenting to our meetings?
I'm contactable through all the usual channels. I'm on Twitter, I'm on Facebook, all those things. And you can just get hold of me. I'm happy to travel and stuff like that, because it is an incredible story, and like I say, the details of it and more things keep coming up. We haven't touched on things like England managers, so Don Revie, Joe Mercer. These fellas were all Freemasons. Alf Ramsey, it's entrenched in the English game. It's absolutely incredible, and there's also a whole new talk which may come in the future, which has Masonic links into Scottish football as well. But I think we've got enough to talk about with the English game, to be honest.
Absolutely. And I mean, going back to Football Lodge, obviously you would have seen it on TV. You would have seen its formation. We know about some of the members. I wonder if you could just high level, because I think that it may have piqued the interest of a few football fans who may be listening to the podcast that, I want to know a bit more about Football Lodge. I wonder if you could just give us a bit more kind of a detail about where it meets, when, what the criteria for joining is. That'd be really helpful.
Okay, so we're part of Hampshire and Isle of Wight province. So we meet on the south coast, and mainly in Southampton, in a centre called Botley Masonic Centre, which is basically between Portsmouth and Southampton. We welcome existing Freemasons. We have quite a few joining members. Our joining members come from all over the country, and we've also got very strong links with other lodges which have links to football. So, for instance, Anfield Lodge 2215 have a massive link with football, as I said earlier, about John Holding and that type of thing. So we've linked in with other lodges, and those lodges often come and visit. So we welcome anybody, and of course we welcome people who have an interest in football and think they might want to become a Freemason. So we try to combine the two. In terms of how we're doing, the lodge is incredibly successful. We have a waiting list of people to come in. Our average numbers are 120, which isn't bad for what we do. And as I said earlier, we try to combine the football quirkiness with Freemasonry. We do the serious bits seriously. So our ceremonial work, we work very hard at. But we also have red and yellow cards as well. So at the end of the serious bits, we've got a red and a yellow card for somebody who might not quite, might make a bit of a mistake. It's all good fun. It's all done in the best possible taste, if you know what I mean. And we have gavels, which are footballs, which you may have seen on football boots, which you may have seen on inside the Freemasons. And we like I say, we got red and yellow cards, but the atmosphere in the lodge is incredible. So when we leave the lodge room, we sing "Abide with Me," which is quite incredible. Botley is an average size room, but when you've got 120 men singing, "Abide with Me," it actually puts a tingle on. It really does make your hairs on the back of your neck stand up. And also we go into the festive board, and we have our own lodge song, which blue is the colour. You couldn't get any more Masonic as that. Many Liverpool fans leave the room when we sing that. Because one particular Liverpool fan who's a member, I'm not singing that song, and it's like, come on, blue is the colour. It's Masonic blue. It's not football blue. It's not Chelsea. It's blue. But the big thing that does happen. So obviously on the south coast, we've got intense rivalry between Portsmouth and Southampton. We might have intense rivalry between, my team, for instance, Everton and Liverpool. We've got all these rivalries which we have in football. But when we come together as Freemasons and we come together at the festive board, all that sort of football banter rivalry, although the banter's still there, it's just incredible how we put football first and Freemasonry first. So, it's all about football. It's all about Freemasonry, and at the meeting at the Connaught Rooms every Wednesday night, when they wrote the rules of the game, they used to drink a toast, and that toast was to the success of football, irrespective of class or creed. And we actually drink that toast at our festive board. So we've captured that, and our contribution to local and grassroots football has been absolutely incredible. When we first formed the lodge, we had a local football club which was broken into, and some vandals set fire to the club, burnt the place to the ground, all the kit, all the training gear. They lost everything, and we stepped in almost immediately. Within 24 hours, we given them £1,000. We got kit. We borrowed kit from other football clubs, because of course we have ex-players, we have local football managers, local football players. So we had enough contacts between to get this team up and running, and we got them going for their next game. So on the Saturday and the Sunday, 12 teams played football, because of us. So that went with us, and we gave them some more money, and we actually rebuilt the clubhouse, got them their kit, got them their training gear. We had to borrow a line painting machine from Eastleigh Football Club to get the pitch done, and all this type of thing. So that was our first major impact into local football. And since then, we pan disability work. We've sponsored teams from Eastleigh. We've sponsored teams at AFC Totton, local grassroots football. We put banners up at local football clubs. And we've even donated some nets to a club up in Stoke who had, they needed nets. So we bought them those nets, and we're actually going to go up there, and it's actually Cannock, and we're going to go up there and have a day out and meet them all at the football club, and that's Football Lodge. So it just works incredibly well.
And just if we can just leave football to the side for 1 second and just go into more of what you were saying about special interest lodges. And I know you mentioned it earlier in kind of what we were talking about, but I think you encapsulated it perfectly there, because obviously the Football Lodge is brought together from people that love grassroots football, that love the Premier League, that just have a passion for the sport, right? And everyone coming together for a common goal in that particular lodge, and then outside of the lodge room, going in and supporting local football clubs and investing and helping out when things like this happen, is what Freemasons should be known for more, in my opinion. And it's not exclusive to football. There's and Taz, here you go. Here's your mention. But there's rugby lodges. So there's the Spirit of Rugby Lodge. There's actually a few rugby lodges that do the same thing. They invest in their local common interest. And if I can plug my own, myself and Josh are putting together the first craft beer lodge in London, and we'll be working with local breweries to do kind of tastings at our festive board and things like that. And I think going forward, everybody coming out of COVID and coming out of lockdown, I think the future of Freemasonry really needs special interest lodges. And I really believe that coming together for common interests now more than ever is really promoting Freemasonry's values kind of more than ever.
Just to add, Neil, did you mention a craft beer lodge?
I did.
Do you like craft beer?
No. Not at all.
I'm sorry, I just had to. I think those of you watching on YouTube probably saw my face light up. That was bubbling, that was brewing, so to speak. You got to plug your own stuff, right? You got to plug your own stuff. And actually, on that point, Shane, I'd love to, and we will put out on our Twitter details about Football Lodge for those that may want to visit, may have some interest in kind of going along and joining the conviviality of kind of Football Lodge. Let's get into Euro fever really quickly. So you are our resident football expert. Obviously, I covered at the very beginning that England dominated Germany and eliminated them. What's your thoughts on England's chances? What were your thoughts on last night?
how are England going to do?
Is it still me? Am I
It
the football
is.
expert?
You are. I hope so.
So I'm not sure about the domination. I thought Germany didn't. I don't think they were a bad team at all. I thought England, had the plan and they stuck to it and it worked well in the end. Jordan Pickford, although he's obviously an Everton player, he was absolutely incredible. He made, at least 2 world-class saves. There was a particular one where even the pundits, they hit it straight at him, but it was a superb save. And the one-on-one where he kicked it wide, I thought Jordan Pickford closed him down and he only gave him the option that he took. And, so they played a great game. And I think the Germans, they'll be back. I don't think they'll ever go away. But I thought they played really well. And I thought they were very technical. They worked the game well. When Raheem Sterling, the back pass, I just thought here we go again. This is it.
Yeah.
So we need to work on that. I really do think we need to work on that. And we've been guilty over the years of being very lackadaisical at the back, almost being quite sort of cocky with it, and I just think if they keep their feet on the ground and keep focused, it's all about the focus, and don't get too carried away with their own hype. We've seen it quite often where they believe what they read in the papers about them and they get to the following game.
Gets in their head, absolutely.
And so, I thought they were really good. I think they've got a lot of options as well. I think he's starting to mix it up a bit. I think the squad that he's got so many options and so many different styles of play. And I think what he'll probably do on Saturday is totally change that. I think he'll put 4 at the back, and I think he'll do a more of an attacking game. Because they're a totally different team. They're a good team. But are you asking me if they could win it? I think after last night, yes, they can. Yes, they can.
Coming home.
And, I think this is the biggest chance. It's been said by quite a few people. It's the biggest chance I can remember they've ever had, apart from the time when we missed out on the penalties and Italia 90 and, all that stuff. So, they've got a really, really good chance. But what I like about them at the moment is that Gareth Southgate seems to be very on the ground. His feet are very on the ground, and he seems to be keeping them focused. So they don't seem to be picking up that many injuries. They seem to be working the game well. They're managing the game well. So I think they've got a real good chance. I think last night I was saying before the game, if they can beat the Germans, they could go all the way because. The Belgians, that they're a good team, but I think if you change a game again and get quite physical with the Belgians, they don't like that. They're quite a good footballing side, but if you get a bit tight to them and start putting the tackles in on them, they tend to they're not great lovers of that. The Italians don't really know whether they're good or not at the moment. They're good, then they're not so good, and so they're still finding their way through, although I was very impressed with them early on in the competition, but they're beatable. I think England can beat them. It's all about, it's like the other games that we play, like golf. It's all about that. It's all about what's in the head, It's all about the head and keeping it right, keeping it tight and making sure that we are very decisive at the back, which we have been, making sure that everything's tight and don't mess around, don't give silly balls away, like we nearly did last night, and I think we could win it.
Obviously, I've
here we go. Taz has got a football point. I'm so excited.
My research, right, and I personally, I know I agree. I think the midfield matters, because according to a publication that will remain nameless, we started a little warily, and Germany's midfield was a lot stronger than ours and was breaking through a lot more in the first half. So I think if they can fix that problem, we'll be fine in the final.
Amazing.
I'm here all week.
Thanks, Taz.
Thank you.
Top pundit.
I wouldn't be surprised actually if the BBC asked you to join their pundit team for the World Cup.
I mean,
I would be surprised if they didn't at this point.
I mean, I've played football once, and I rugby tackled somebody, and I tried to header it, and it just ended up hitting me slam on the middle of my head, and didn't really do anything. So that was my contribution to the beautiful game.
Well, I think perhaps just stick to the gym and your Desperate Housewives, or just we'll come around mine. We'll open a couple of beers and a bottle of wine, and we'll watch the football. Not a problem at all. Jack, I want to hear your opinion before we kind of slowly bring the train into the station. I want to know what your thoughts are. Are we going all the way?
Yeah, you've got to believe to achieve. That's the saying, isn't it? So that's what we've got to do. Like it's all been covered now, especially from Taz. We've had great punditry.
Yep.
Thank you.
But that's it. Like everyone said, if we don't do it now, this is it. We're going to do it. Like I think it could be a tough final, and we might scrape like a 2-1 win, but we'd want it to be a win on 90 minutes. We don't want to be going any further than that. But we can do it. We can do it. The boys are there. The players are fantastic. Like we said earlier, Neil. Like Sterling has not had the plaudits that he needs for his performance in this whole, not just one game, in the whole
competition.
whole thing. And I said before, his passion for the game is there and for his country, and I really want to see him become a hero of this tournament for England.
And it's possible. It really is possible. Right, lads. I think I'm very wary of going any lower than the surface of Sean's talk, because it's, you know, I need to build up a hook and some sort of curiosity with our listeners. So, Sean, I want to thank you so much for joining us this afternoon to give a bit of a high-level jump into football and Freemasonry. It's been an absolute pleasure. We will put out your contact details and details of Football Lodge so people can get in touch to book you for the talk, which is highly recommended. I think we should get you up to London and come and do Simplicity with us lot. But yeah, Sean, thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Love to do that. Yeah.
Fabulous stuff. Sean, thank you so much for your time. Taz, would you please recap the socials and how people can find our podcast?
Of course. Well, if you can tear yourself away from the beautiful game and you can catch me not watching football, you can find us on www.brothermasonic.com or www.brothermasonic.co.uk. We are available. I know. Isn't that exciting? It's a new thing for 2021.
Just for you, Taz.
Largely because I kept getting the names wrong. You can also find us on all leading podcast streaming platforms. If you want to get in touch, please tweet us at Brother Masonic. And remember, if you like what you hear, leave us a cheeky little review. 5 stars would be amazing. Maybe England will get 5 stars above the badge on their football uniform. Can we call it a football uniform? I'm just digging myself a hole here.
Yeah. Thanks, Taz.
You're welcome.
Gentlemen, brethren all, thank you so much for joining us this afternoon and on this kind of Euro period of time. We will be back again with our next episode very shortly. We are brother, you are too. Thank you for stopping by.
Oh, it's called a kit, isn't it? Bloody hell.
Full uniform.
Oh.
Harry, what is wrong with you?
Thank you so much for watching this episode of Brother. Please make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the bell to be notified whenever we upload a new video.
If you don't want to touch Neil's bell, you can go to www.brothermasonic.com and check out our full back catalogue of YouTube videos and podcasts.